Mexico. It sounds so simple, I just got to go. Oh, Mexico. Gotta draw their flag, so I got to go. And welcome back to James Draws Everything, and also James Sings Everything. And if you couldn't guess by that little serenade, that little interlude, we're doing the country of Mexico. All right, so Mexico, I got a lot to say about this place, and this place has a lot to say about me too. So, has a very long, complicated history. We're going to be talking about a lot of the stuff that the common themes we hit on this channel, right? How different European powers brought different types of influence and government to the New World. How certain economic policies tend to work, and then certain ones don't. Mexico's gonna kind of be a little crash course on kind of everything we talk about on this channel. And it does have a long flag, very similar to the Italian flag, but the green on the Mexico flag is it's a lot darker, right? And it's longer than Italy's. And it also has something pretty cool in the middle, but we will get to that. All right. So yeah, I just want to make sure my dimensions are all good here. Yeah, even the French have a little bit of an influence here, right? So that kind of happens in like the 19th century, which, you know, hold on, we'll get there. But yeah, probably one of the easiest ways you can tell, you know, is because they have that tricolor flag, which is, you know, very specifically like a French thing, right? So Mexico, of course, home to many different pre-Columbian peoples, a lot of different Mesoamerican ethnicities, like the Olmecs, Mayas, Zapotec, Teotihuacan, Purépecha, Aztec domination basically until the Spanish arrive. So, you know, Spain does conquer the Aztec Empire in like some of them early Columbus voyages. And I've talked about this a whole bunch of times, but if you're new to the channel, welcome. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll just kind of go over it again. So, the Spanish were a battle-hardened people at the time of Columbus, right? Because you got to remember 1492, that was not just when Columbus sailed the ocean blue. That was also the beginning of the Spanish Golden Age. So they just had the Reconquista. You know, they fought for hundreds of years to retake their country. Okay, so these were not weak people, right? These were very battle-hardened, strong people. And I bring that up because, you know, the horrors of what they saw in the New World with like human sacrifice and things like that the Aztecs were doing. You can read this, you know, in their diaries. You know, they felt the need to Christianize this part of the world as well. So, yeah, so the fact, you know, they weren't shrieking like church ladies when they came here. You know, they really thought this was like a sick and evil thing that was happening. So, you know, you get the impression, or you get the lessons, right? That you know, everything was just all happy and peaceful. And then you get some hardcores, right? Some hardcore anti-European types that'll just say, "Oh well, it's, you know, it's just how they do things," you know. But then they freak out over like the littlest things in civilized culture. So screw them. But yeah, so still have Aztecs there. But yeah, that empire declines when the Spanish show up. This becomes New Spain, so it's like a viceroy of New Spain, or I forget how you pronounce that. Then the old capital of Tenochtitlan becomes Mexico City. Right, so the Spanish, they have a colony there for quite a while, a couple hundred years. And then what you think of as like modern Mexico, that starts in the early 19th century. Okay, so there is a war for independence against the Spanish. And there's a lot of those popping off in Latin, Central, South America at this time. So they all kind of achieve independence at the same time, you know, as the Spanish Empire in the New World declines. And they, let's see here, hold on one second. Yeah, they have, in the early 19th century, kind of a conservative dictator, Porfirio Diaz. So that kind of sparks a revolution in 1910. So Diaz was, you know, he was still friendly with like a lot of Spanish kind of traditions, like the Catholic Church. Mexico, of course, still to this day a very, very Catholic country. But yeah, you have a lot of you know, those kind of anti-authority, kind of colonialism sort of movements that kind of butt heads with the conservatives, and it kind of lasts that way pretty much until today. This has always been a country that's sort of been in upheaval, just kind of nonstop coups. A lot of foreign influence in Mexico. We'll get to that a little bit more in the 20th century, but yeah. So the United States, you know, it's barely, you know, maybe 60, 70, or like 50, 60 years old at that point. And there was a lot of concern about having this unstable neighbor, right? Because Mexico, you know, you can talk about like, oh, you know, they shouldn't have went to war or tried to conquer them or anything like that, but it's also kind of like a national security issue, right? Because you have all this chaos that's on your border, and if it spills over into your own country, man, I got to redraw that whole thing. I don't like where I put it. All right, so one of the more famous wars in American history is the Mexican War, right? So the Mexican War is kind of where a lot of Civil War, future, you know, American Civil War generals kind of cut their teeth. This is like where Zachary Taylor, Ulysses Grant, they have a lot of, they see a lot of activity there. And it's probably important to talk about the United States president at that time, James Polk. And, you know, the United States was always a divided country, right? So it's not like, even, you know, going back to the founding period, you had anti-federalists, you know, Jeffersonian types, you had federalists. One thing almost everybody agreed on, though, was that the United States was going to expand westward, right? So you had different ideas as far as how exactly that was going to happen, but I think everybody was pretty much in agreement that this was like an eventuality, right? So Mexico is, you know, they also had a war with Texas, where Texas was, you know, its own independent republic in the mid-19th century. Texas seceded from Mexico and wanted to join the United States. So Mexico, obviously, you know, they had some issues with that. But, yeah, Texas joins the United States. Polk kind of gets credit for that, but that was actually sort of set up in the John Tyler administration. Right, so making moves on that part of the world, trying to manifest destiny, bringing America to the West. Texas willingly joins, and there is a bit of a border dispute there. One of the rivers, I forget, I think it's not the Rio Grande, is it the Nueces? I can never pronounce that. But there were some American troops stationed there, and this was actually not part of Texas, right? So this was actually still Mexico. So you can kind of, it's one of those situations where a war starts where, you put people where they didn't belong in the first place, right? And then you kind of complain when the other country, in this case Mexico, defends their territory. So I get both sides of the argument for this, right? So kind of some Polk detractors of his presidency might say he was kind of like one of the original warmongering neocons, and I've actually held that opinion. Not exactly sure where I stand on it now. Just gotta do a little bit more research into Polk, right? Because I'm getting way off topic here, but history has its own history, right? So as we find out new information, as certain things get revised and new studies come out, you can always change your opinion on something. So I'll do you have to check out Polk a little bit more sometime in the future. But yeah, so Polk goes to war with Mexico. Mexico gets pretty severely humiliated during this war. So they lose a lot more territory, but it's kind of territory that they weren't even really administrating in the first place, right? So, the United States pretty much stretches all the way out to California during this time. And yeah, so the final pieces of the continental United States are put together as a result of this war and shortly after. So Mexico, ever since then, right, bad blood with their northern neighbor, with the United States, and vice versa, right? So you kind of have to talk about the American Civil War because this is one of the interesting what-ifs in history. So you get a lot of French influence in Mexico at this point in time. So the French were, throughout the 19th century, they're going all over the place, up and down with their, their Jacobin revolutions and anti-British, and by association, anti-American sentiments. The United States is a little bit busy, right? So they're not really paying attention to Mexico at this point in time. And the French, they actually get an Austrian Habsburg, Maximilian, in power in Mexico. He does not last long. I think he's assassinated, or he's publicly hung or something like that after only a couple years. But I always just find that incredible because it's one of the great what ifs in history, right? So you could have had a Habsburg in control of a state in the West, right, in the Americas. So that's a whole nother topic. That's just one of those interesting things too, right, where in history a lot of times stuff happens that it's people take advantage of other things that are going on, so it opens up opportunities for kind of completely unrelated stuff to happen. So yeah, so the big what if Mexico became part of the Austrian Habsburg dynasty? And yeah, we could probably do a whole episode on that because to me that's just that's really interesting stuff. So Mexico, yeah, again defeated in the Mexican-American War. Pretty much still nonstop kind of government upheaval and things getting never really settled down. You go into the going into the 20th century, you do have another revolution. So you get a lot of kind of economic growth at this point as well, but yeah, there's just way too much political instability there, and you also get a lot of communist subversion in Mexico. So when people talk about communists being in the West, it's always like Cuba. They're the ones that are working through the Soviets and kind of, trying to overthrow like neighboring Latin American governments. It's all funded by Cuba. But Mexico did a lot of that too. So you don't really hear about that as much because, you don't really think of Mexico as being like a communist state, but they never really were, but they certainly were leaning in that direction. And just due to how violent the history between Mexico and America has been, it wasn't too unrealistic to think that, that Mexico could, really destabilize the Western world. So this kind of leads to a situation in World War One. So this is pre-communism, but still those wounds haven't really healed between Mexico and America. So the Germans are, through this thing called the Zimmerman telegram, are telling Mexico that if you help us against the United States, we'll give you back Texas and all the territories that you lost. And that's actually what got the United States into World War One. One of a few things, but that's a big one. So that's the big one that turned public sentiment. Now you hear that, and it's like, that's ridiculous, right? Like, how is Germany, who is already losing a lot of manpower, a lot of economic, just money in general, they're going through struggles with this war. How are they going to go all the way to the Americas, to the Western world, and help Mexico? It doesn't make any sense. But just the fact that they even said that was enough to bring American public opinion to the side of intervention, because there was so much bad blood that existed. So even if that was unrealistic, sometimes that's all you got to do, is you just got to start yapping a bit and talking smack, and stuff pops off. So that leads to another a whole other story there, right? Because World War One, Mexico, not really a key player in it, but it is always just kind of interesting that Mexico in the Civil War in the Americas, and Mexico in World War One, despite not being a belligerent there, they played a pretty important role in both. So this country has always sort of been a place that the United States has kind of had to keep an eye on, for security reasons and whatnot. And I'm rushing through stuff here because, again, this place has a very, very long history. But all the way through the 20th century, right, there's more unstable governments, a lot of, drug trafficking, and a lot of other, quote-unquote, bad stuff, comes through Mexico, into the United States southern border. But despite that, like, as far as like what they're doing economically, they do have like a very low taxation, so it's kind of an attractive place for manufacturing. So as tensions kind of rise with some Asian powers, a lot of manufacturing firms have went to Mexico to set up shop, and it's definitely a country of contrasts, right? So very, very rich, very, very poor. So, you can have a multi-million-dollar mansion with 17 armed guards out front, and then next door is a guy that's using an old Pepsi sign for part of the wall in his shack, right? So the disparities here are pretty big. A lot of that is just due to the fact that, we got to talk about this. This place doesn't have a government, all right? It's basically run by the cartels, right, by drug cartels. So yes, they have a president and all this and that, but the drug cartels run the shop. And as far as I'm concerned, the United States is at war. We're not really at war, but has their military everywhere in the world. The only place we should actually be at war with is Mexico, right? Because, get your shop in order, because it's causing problems here. And, they'll always say, like, oh, well, the cartels, they're too scary. Like, what do we... It's like, oh, no, they're too scary? All right, well, we'll have tanks in Mexico City by 3 o'clock. Okay, we'll stop. So... yeah, so that's my opinion on that, because it's a problem that could be solved overnight. But again, a lot of people get rich off of certain types of trafficking that come through. And yeah, so that's Mexico. As far as, other stuff, like, they're a part of NAFTA, a lot of U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreements. So, they're kind of integrated into this world, but they're always kind of foreign too, to Western sort of styles of government and politics and all of that. So again, a lot of that is because just basically a giant criminal organization, So that's Mexico, and I do like the flag, right? So again, I kind of alluded to this before. It's a tricolor flag with a coat of arms in the middle, and that coat of arms is pretty awesome. It's got a snake in it, the beak of a BIRB here, and it's perched on a cactus. All right, so the colors, the green is hope and joy, the white is peace and honesty, and the red, of course, hardiness, bravery, strength, and valor. So not quite blood, but pretty close. And so the legend has it that the coat of arms was from a wandering Aztec people, and they went to settle at a location, and they saw an eagle on a cactus eating a snake. And that place where they saw this BIRB is now Mexico City. So pretty cool. I like the flag. The country, it's got some work. It's got a lot it's got to do to get on the James Draws Everything friends list here, but that is Mexico. So I know I rushed through a lot here. Very, very rich history, but I think I hit the big points. So let me know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next video.